Welcome back, I'm Ryan from Blue Gaming, and today I'm going to be taking a look on is it worth it to start playing Black Desert Online in 2017. Now, if you haven't seen my other is it worth it videos, this is essentially going to act kind of like a review, and this is mainly for new players starting into the game that haven't played it before. And as you can see, I started out playing as a wizard. I got it pretty soon after it got its Steam release, and let's just get right into it. First off, before I start though, if I forget to talk about something that you want to know more about, leave a comment and then I'll go into some detail about it, because there's a lot in this game and I can't cover everything and keep this video somewhat short. So if you know about something in the game and you want me to go into some detail about it, just leave a comment. And then besides that, there's three things that are really going to put off players just by hearing about them. They're kind of somewhat misconceptions, somewhat wrong, somewhat correct. The three things are: is the game pay to win, are the servers terrible, and that the game is just a Korean grind fest. So let's go over those three before I get into the actual pros and cons of jumping into the game and talking about combat and stuff. So is it pay to win? Well, kind of. You can buy costumes for around $20 to $30 in the cash shop, and you can sell up to 5 of these costumes a week to make about 100 million in-game silver, which is anywhere from 10 to 20 hours of farming, depending on how you want to do it. So simply put, you're spending $100+ to skip 15 or so hours of farming, and that whether you think that is pay to win or not is up to you. Although I have heard that costumes sell for a lot more on the Korean servers, so the Korean servers might be pay to win, and most of what you get on the cash shop are just cosmetics and convenience items. The next thing is that these servers are terrible. You've probably heard this if you are in the EU, because the EU servers are so laggy that the game is unplayable. They have come out and said that it's not their problem, while players are saying that is their problem, and there's a lot of conflicting information. The only things that I know for sure, since I'm playing on the North American servers, is that the EU servers are super laggy, and you probably shouldn't pick up this game until they fix those if you happen to be playing in the EU. Then the final major thing that people like to bring up is that this game is just a Korean grind fest. And quite frankly, you're not wrong. Most quests do just boil down to killing X number of enemies, and that's what 90% of the main story is going to be. But I think that the combat is fun enough to carry it through. It certainly carried me through the rest of the game, and I'll come back and talk about combat a lot later. So let's get into the actual pros and cons, and you'll notice that I don't normally do pros and cons in most of my other reviews, but for a game this big, pros and cons is kind of how I have to set this up for a time's sake. So let's get right into it. So starting out with a major pro, this game is a living MMO, so you really get to choose how your end game goes. You can do anything from being a farmer to owning a worker trading system, to having a PvP focused adventures. Since I'm currently not technically at in-game, I can't go into too much detail about it, but you can do a whole ton of different things, mostly through the profession system, where you can be anything from a farmer to a fisherman to the worker trading system, and it really lets you choose how you want the rest of the game to go. The problem is, if you don't know what you want to do, or you're really indecisive, then it's going to leave you wide open and not really give you any hard objectives on what to do, because you get to choose. So that could be a con for some people. The next one is that this is a very large, seamless open world with no loading screens. But if you have to travel across the map, there is no fast travel, and journeys could take a bit. The easiest way to show this off is one of the first cities that you will get to is a place called Hydaelyn. It is a city that you'll get to within 2 or 3 hours of starting the game. To get from Hydaelyn to Calpheon, which is one of the 2 major cities in the game, is a 10+ minute horse ride. And that is with a tier 5 horse, which is pretty high up there. So this is a huge open world, which is great. There's no loading screens, which is also great, but getting around the place can take a little bit of time. The next thing is, after level 50, you can attack anybody you see in the world, except if you're in a city. But if you don't want to open yourself up to the possibility of getting attacked in the world, then you can't progress past level 50. This is something that turns off quite a few players, I found out, is that when you're out in the world grinding or going after quests after level 50, if someone comes up and attacks you, you are now just in PvP. It's just that simple. There's a way to get out of it, but you really have to just run away is the way to get out of it. So it is forced PvP, but you don't have to fight anybody. The next major pro is the character creator itself. The amount of different ways that you can customize your character to have him look exactly how you want your character to look is amazing. They even have a beauty shop that lets you see what other people have made, and you get to even download and use the creations that other people have made. And there's anything from celebrities to crazy just monsters almost. So you can really have your character look any way that you want. And if you go and look at photos of Black Desert, a lot of what you'll see is some of the really, really great character creations that people have made. Next thing, I did already talk about how big the world is, but just the world looks amazing. This is one of the best looking MMOs that I've seen. You can get in there and see really small details just out in the world in the middle of nowhere. Then some of the places that you go along your journeys are great. Like some of the places that stick out to me are there was this fort up on top of a mountaintop, and it's being attacked by harpies, and you have to help them get rid of the harpy problem. And then another place is a fort right out on the edge of a forest, and they're being attacked by trolls, and there's a giant troll war going on. And just different places like that. It's great to see all these different kind of scenarios play out at the same time just when you go to somewhere, and it's great to see all these different places. The first time that you ever go to the desert, it's just desert for as far as the eye can see. It is just amazing to just sit back and look at this game and look at the world, and this is one of the best open worlds that I've seen just in the world itself. I don't really know how to put this, but yeah, that's just looking at it, going from one place to another, it looks downright gorgeous. Next thing is that there is a wide variety of classes. You can choose everything from wizards and witches to ninjas. There's even a class that got added recently that just uses its fists. There's even a class that makes you a giant. The variety of classes is crazy. There is also the typical warriors and rangers and stuff, but these more far out classes that you normally don't see in Western games are the ones that are a bit more interesting because we don't see them that often. The only downside to the classes is each class is gender locked, and I know that is a downside for some people. It's 2017, we should be able to customize our characters however we want, but no, a class is always going to be the same gender, although they have offset that by there being equivalents of each class with each gender. So wizards and witches, wizards are always male, witches are always female, but they essentially do the same thing. Warriors are always male, but Valkyries are always female, and they're kind of the same thing. So there is a trade-off of each of those. Now on to the final pro, which is actually kind of a con, but I'll get into it. It's the leveling. There is no max level, which is great, but the rate of experience it takes to level up is exponential, meaning that getting from level 1 to 50 takes somewhat of a small amount of time. Then getting from level 50 to 56 takes about half as much time as getting from level 1 to 50. But then after level 56, it starts to get crazy. Getting a single level after level 56 can take days or even weeks to get up, and then once going past level 59, it can take months. Only one person in the world has ever made it to level 62, and I don't think that anybody will ever make it to 63. That's just how crazy exponential it gets. To give you a bit of clarification on that, to get from level 61 to 62, the guy who did it spent something like 6 months of playing Black Desert every single day to get up to level 62. So that is how crazy it can be, which for some people this is a con because they really like the leveling up and just continuing to level up to max level. But this goes back to it being a living MMO where you get to choose how your end game goes. If you want to just grind and grind and grind for the extra levels, then you can, but if you don't want to, then you don't have to, and there's really no penalty of not getting any level past level 56, which is the soft cap. So going up, and the whole way of leveling up is through combat. Each individual quest doesn't really give you experience. I know some quests throughout the storyline or the main story do give you experience, but most of all the other quests don't. And so you have to do it through combat, and the entire rest of this video is pretty much going to be talking about combat and the great thing that happens at level 56. So let's get right into it. So the combat is the best thing about this game, and that is because it's a mixture of combat from hack and slash games and combat from fighting games. And what I mean by that is the game plays a lot like hack and slash, but you put in button combinations to use abilities, and you can chain abilities together into somewhat seamless combos. To give an example of what I mean, you will see me use Lightning Strike into Lightning Explosion, which is called Residual Lightning, many times in this video. To do that, I press the S and F keys to do the Lightning Strike ability, and then I can hold down right click to immediately use the Residual Lightning ability. Now, I could use Residual Lightning without the Lightning Strike, but it would do less damage and require me to press a completely different button. So comboing together stuff like this, you will also see me use the Fireball into the regular Fire Explosion. That is somewhat of the same thing. I press the S key and left click, and then I press the right click button afterwards to do the explosion for that too. So there's just different combinations like that which let you use different abilities. Not all abilities are used like that though. You will see that there is a hotbar on the bottom of the screen, and there are some abilities that can only be used on the hotbar. On the flip side though, there are also abilities that can only be used by key combination and can't be put on the hotbar. So this allows for like I said, the combos to be put together, as you can chain different attacks together to deal more damage and kind of keep your enemy stunned while you're doing a whole bunch of damage to them. And another great thing is how quickly you can unlock new abilities. By level 20, I had 10 different things that I could do. Anything from healing to lightning strike to fireball. I had a freeze blast. I had a mana regeneration ray. Just a whole ton of different abilities. The downside is you unlock most of your abilities early on, and then you just upgrade them as you level up. But then, once you hit level 56, things change drastically. At level 56, you are given access to your class's Awakening Weapon, which this gives you a whole new skill tree, and the Awakening Weapon is usually used for the main damage in a class. I don't have my Awakening Weapon yet, so I can't talk about much, but essentially, for a wizard, it's just a different way to cast spells, and I can cast more powerful spells. Some other classes, it will add ranged options. For the regular warrior, he starts out with a sword and shield, but his Awakening Weapon is a two-handed sword. So just, it completely changes up combat, and you can switch between your Awakening Weapon and your regular weapon at any time to continue doing combos. So this is just a great system of combat. This might be the best MMO combat that I have ever seen, and some of the best RPG combat that I've ever seen. I actually can't think of any other game that has combat, medieval combat that is as good as this game. And I wish that some other, like, single-player RPGs would incorporate some combat mechanics that this game has, specifically the button combinations. I really like that system, as it allows me to use a ton of different abilities without having to have hotbars full of different things, and it kind of puts more into an ability when you have to press several keys at once instead of just pressing a single key to do an ability. So that's pretty much all that I'm going to talk about with Black Desert Online. I personally think that this game is worth it to pick up if you are playing in the North American servers. If you are playing in the EU servers, I recommend that you wait for them to fix the servers. And then, if you're playing on the Korean servers, you might want to take a bigger look at if this game is too pay to win for your taste. Also, something that I haven't even brought up is that this game, without being on a sale, this game is only $10. And when it's on sale, it normally goes down to $8. And for the amount of time and stuff that you get to do in this game, that is definitely worth it. I've already put in upwards of 100 hours into this game. Most of it, though, is AFK fishing, because that's a thing that you can do. Actually, that's most of my time, if not 75% of my time so far has been AFK fishing. This game just has so many great upsides, and for only $10, it is definitely worth checking out and playing just a bit of it. So that's going to be it for this. Remember, if you need me to go into detail about anything I talked about or anything I missed, just leave a comment and I will get to it. So remember, as always, I'm Ryan from Bluewood Gaming, and I'll see you guys in the next one.